One aspect of the modern world that I find particularly frustrating and seems to be counterintuitive to the concept of progression is clothing sizes. When you go to a shop to buy clothes, they very often have these things called changing rooms where you can go and try things on to find out if they do actually fit you. And this is quite a useful tool I use when I go shopping for clothes. I don't keep a track of my exact sizes from day to day, and I generally know what kind of sizes I am, but when I go shopping nowadays it seems like more and more things come in a variety of sizes called small, medium, large and very large. That's just 4 sizing categories. And as you can imagine, these sizing categories don't actually tell you the size of the item. They don't really tell you much at all, to be honest. They just tell you that a small is going to be smaller than a medium, and a medium is going to be smaller than a large. Beyond that, it doesn't really convey any information. And you'd think that maybe if you tended to always buy mediums for, I don't know, t-shirts for example, then generally speaking you'd be medium for everything else. But it doesn't seem to work like that either. Just in my last 2 most recent clothes shopping experiences, I've been completely bamboozled by this in quite a complicated manner. I went to one shop and tried on a couple of t-shirts that I liked in the changing rooms, and they both fit really nicely. And I looked at the label inside and it said they were medium. So anyway, I put them together and started to wander over to the cash till, or the till register. It's not necessarily cash anymore, but you know what I mean, the tills. And on my way I spotted another t-shirt that I quite liked from a different company. And so I didn't really want to faff around going back into the changing rooms. You know, it was very much a spur of the moment decision that I liked this t-shirt and didn't really have time to go and try it on again, so I just rifled through the pile, grabbed a medium, added it to the pile and went to the tills. Paid for it, went home, thought great. And then I tried on the new medium, the medium I just grabbed on the way to the tills, tried it on, assuming it had fit snugly like the other two, and it was too small for me, by quite a degree. It was the kind of too small that I could probably get away with wearing it to a gay bar, but that'd be about the only destination I could without getting lots of people looking at it and chuckling, you know. Not to mention the fact that if I tried to lift anything off of a high shelf, it would probably rip the armpits. Anyway, I took it back and just swapped it for a large, and everything's fine. I mean, even the large is still slightly too small, but not obviously too small. It's just made the shopping experience slightly more hassle than it needed to be, I suppose. In that the labelling doesn't really give you any clues as to whether the item will fit you or not. It's essentially mostly pointless labelling that just helps you narrow your search down a bit. In that you probably don't want a very, very large, and you probably don't want a very small, but you probably want one of those ones in the middle that everybody buys. And of course they confuse the very larges by then converting it into X's. You have XL, XXL and XXXL. I suppose it's shorter than writing very all the time. And the very small is of course XS, ironically enough. But anyway, so I then, a couple of weeks later, was looking at some nice coats, you know, jacket coats in a shop, because we're getting near winter and all of that. And again, it's the same thing. They don't have any actual sizes in them. It's just S, M, L, XL. And I'm looking through them and looking through them. They don't have the M. They have the S, they have the L, and they have the XL, but they don't have the M. And I'm suspecting I'm probably the M, but I don't know. So I try on the S, and it's all right. It kind of fits all right, maybe. I don't know. Maybe just a little bit small in places. And I try on the large, and it's very large. You know, it's literally dropping off me, and I feel like a potato, the last potato in a sack of potatoes. So, you know, I really need to try the medium, because the small is so close to being perfect that it's highly likely that if I go any larger, I'm just going to be the potato in a sack again. But I do want to try the medium because the small does feel just a tiny bit small. But of course the shop doesn't have the medium. So I go over to the tills and say, when are you next expecting the next load of these to come in? And of course the lady says, well, I've no idea really. It's we just buy them in, and when they're gone, they're gone. We've probably got some online. So anyway, she says, you know, you can order one online, and you want to buy it, then we'll get it in, then you can try it on. Then if you don't want it, we can refund you. And oh dear, what palaver. But anyway, I tried on some other mediums in other coats, and they're all different. You know, I'm not getting any hints from the other clothing items as to whether a medium would suit me. And I just can't really be bothered to go through the process of paying, waiting for it to come in, then trying it on, just to find out that if it even fits me, let alone whether I actually wanted the thing in the first place. By the by, on that particular coat, I went in there a couple of weeks later, and the small actually had some damage to it. One of the buttons had already ripped off, and you know, I thought, oh well, probably missed a bullet there anyway. It was probably a bit of cheap tat, you know. But they still didn't have a medium in there, you know, they hadn't updated their stock or anything. And yet here we are entering the internet age of shopping, where most people are going to be buying their clothes off the internet. So you go onto the websites, and you see a t-shirt or a jacket you like, and you don't actually know if you can't really tell what the material is, but at least the pattern looks vaguely like what you like. And you go to pick a size, and you're just presented with the SML thing again. It should be FML, but you know, it's SML. And yeah, you've no idea. And the presumption is that you just buy all three and then send a couple back once you've figured out which one you actually wanted. Which is a hell of a process, and it's no wonder that loads of clothing companies are going nuts because they can't cope with all the refunds and all the products being sent back, and this massive waste of postage back and forth. I mean, it's great for the postage companies, obviously, but they're about the only people who benefit from this. And you can't help but think that we're supposed to be advancing into a much more technologically advanced age, an age of advancement, where things are improving. And yet the clothes buying experience by going online has definitely become worse. And it's primarily because the clothing companies have completely abandoned putting actual sizes in their clothes. And even if they do put actual sizes in their clothes, like sometimes with trousers, I think trousers are one of the few things left where you can still get an inch size, a waist size for the inch and leg, on the label rather than just SML. But even then they lie, because they don't want people who are getting fatter to realise that they're getting fatter and depressed that they're getting fatter. So they'll say something is 32 inches, but you try it on and it falls to the floor, because it's not 32 inches. They just want the person who's now a 38-inch waist to keep buying 32s to make them feel better. But it's only real sizes that are the real communication tool to tell you how big something is. I mean, it should be common sense, really. The term size relates to the size of an item, and measurements are what create the size. But for some reason we're not allowed to know the size of items when we're choosing what size of item to buy. In the age of information, it seems the last thing any of the clothing companies want to give you is information.